I think it's fair to say that we in the SBS, we've embraced a wonderful cultural side this whole year since we came back. And this morning's guest is no exception. A star of the small screen in the 60s, our guest today will entertain us with wonderful stories of her life as a wife, a mother, an actor, and a breadwinner, together with some other entertaining pieces. Please give a warm SBS welcome to Claire Mullan. Claire?
Earlier, Bill was talking about upmarket and kind of very grand as far as I'm concerned. I'm anything but. It's going to be, I think, quite the opposite today. I hope you enjoy the little chat, and I hope you enjoy listening to Going Down Memory Lane with me. I'm Dublin. I come from Rathdown Road, North Circular Road, and I can remember when I was a little girl, very small, being walked on a plank into the house in Rathdown Road. I lived opposite Grange Gorman, and I can go back to the days of the cattle market, when cattle would go down the road, and I remember as a little girl being terribly frightened about it, because although I knew they were going somewhere sinister, I didn't realize they were going to be killed and made into meat. But I remember watching them going down crying, and they were mooing, and they were obviously going off on the boats or else to the cattle market, which was in Manor Street. And you obviously remember that, do you? Yeah. And it did create an impression on me of kind of sadness at an early age. But I was the eldest of 6 children, and in fact 7, because my little sister, Ita Mary, died sadly on us when she was very young, but the rest of us survived, and we'd literally be sent out in the morning and told to stay out until the evening, when we'd come back. We'd have our sandwiches, and this was in the summertime when we were quite small, and we seemed to have no fears about going anywhere, going up to the Phoenix Park, which was quite close, or maybe into Grange Gorman itself. I remember bringing down cans to buy milk, which was probably a halfpenny or something, maybe 2 farthings, to Grange Gorman, and they'd sell us the milk, and we'd come back with it, and things like that. I was a war child, and I can remember the lack of things like tea and white bread, and we had black bread, and we had a thing called, it was like a box, and we would light it. It was made of, does anybody remember that? Or am I the oldest in the room? Yeah, do you remember that? And our mother would put a sawdust fire, it was called. And our mother would fill it with sawdust. And it would be in a big tin, like a biscuit tin, a Jacob's biscuit. We never saw the biscuits. But that would be pushed down then into the center by a broom handle and lit. And we'd have our, we'd put our grill across the top. My mother would make stews on that. Do you remember that? Yes. And we used to do that. That would be done in the yard of our house in Rathdown Road. And we'd also have to worry about the Glimmer Man. Remember him? And the Glimmer Man, Rathdown Road was quite a long road. And the Glimmer Man would be seen at the top of the road going in. And we'd maybe the baby's bottle or something would be on a glimmer because the gas wouldn't go up beyond a glimmer. And my mother would be trying to put cold water to make sure he wouldn't find it on, because I don't know what would happen. I think you'd be beheaded if you were found with a glimmer on. So all those things are crowding into my memory as I speak to you now. Some sad, some lovely, some, very happy days. I remember we used to go out to my favourite auntie in Howth, Steenie, and my cousin Deirdre is here today. Where are you, Deirdre? Here you are. And we used to have a good time out with her, with my grandparents, and also Steenie, who lived on the top of the hill in Ardan, in Howth Hill. And lovely, lovely memories of her. And then I went to school. And school was Stanhope Street Convent. And it was like going into prison. It was like going into a very, very kind of dreary, awful hell. And the first day I went in, I remember, I got so upset I started to cry. And I was put into the boys' class, Sister Stanislaus class, and put up at the back on the back seat in Sister Stan's. I didn't like that at all. And that's the way my school in Stanhope Street went, from bad to worse. Except for one thing, we had a very good English teacher, and she gave me the love for English. And in fact, my desire was to be a journalist, to be a writer. My father and my mother and my grandfather and my Uncle Ben all worked in the Independent. And my father's father, my granddad, he was the head of the wire room. And my father was working in the room as well, in the office of the wire. And they would take world news in all the time. So my mother worked. She was the secretary to the works manager, a man called Mick Hopper. But she had to leave, of course, when she got married, as we all did in those days. Even in my day, people had to leave their work, and you couldn't work if you were married, unless you were an actor like me, subsequently. You could work when you got the job. So my father promised me if I would become less shy, I was very shy as a child, he would get me into the Indo with the rest of the family. And that was my dream. However, firstly, I became a girl guide, but I'll tell you about that in a minute. I want to talk about my first experience as an actor, and that was in school. And I wanted to play something lovely like Portia, but instead of Portia, I got Shylock because I had a deep voice. And believe it or not, I was tall when I was growing up. I since became short, but as I was growing up, I was the tallest in the class. So that was my first. And I kind of got a liking. I thought, this is nice. I'm going to, enjoy being maybe an amateur actor. I never thought I'd be pro. So what will I talk to you about? Will I go into the theatre yet? Or should I? Yes. what I'll do is I'll tell you about the Brendan Smith Academy first. Again, my father came to the rescue and said, look, there's a school of acting called the Brendan Smith Academy. And you might go there and become an actor. By this time, I had left school, I had got a job in an office. He wouldn't let me into the Indo yet, I wasn't ready. But I got a job myself in Abbey Street, right opposite the Indo. And I used to be able to look over and see him and his, by then he was head of the wire room, my granddad had retired. And I used to be able to look at them and see what they were up to and wish I was there. But I was working in a film company office, a company called Egan Film Company. A very, just very ordinary film renters. The films would come in and I'd get to know the names of them, all the film stars and stuff like that. I knew most of them because my father used to bring home pictures for me, and they were generally, he always brought me nice pictures of people like Hedy Lamarr and Joan Crawford and Clark Gable and people like that. So Rita Hayworth, I was well used to seeing those. So I was quite happy with those until my brothers tore them all up one day. They were very bold boys. I since have learned how to talk to them. Don't worry, your granddad isn't like that. That's my grandnephew down there, sitting down behind the camera. Paddy, he was all right. He was a good brother. But the other brothers, the older brothers, were a bit naughty, and they would do all they could to disrupt my life. So anyway, I worked in the daytime. I joined Brendan Smith Academy, and about 6 months after I joined, I got a part in a film. And the film was called Shark Island. And the film was about, killing sharks. I didn't realize that until I went off to Achill Island. And I was there for a day when I got the fright of my life, because the sea was full of the blood of the sharks. And it was devastating for a young girl. I had nobody with me. It was an English company, Anglo Amalgamated, and they were awfully sophisticated, and, I was kind of, oh, well, that's life, That's the reaction I got from them. So I was unhappy there. And there was worse to come, because my mother, she had a premonition, and the premonition was borne out. We were there for 3 weeks filming in the most difficult conditions and dangerous conditions. And we went one day out to sea, and the boat was, our camera was waterlogged. We had to come back. And the following day was a Whit Saturday. We went out again. And we went down to the location to go off. And the day before, I had got very badly windburned. I was in an awful state. I didn't wear makeup then at all, so I had no protection. I knew there was a chemist on the island, one chemist. So I decided in my own little way that I was going to go up and get calamine lotion or something to try and protect me that day, because it was awful out at sea. It was really rough. So I told Bill Brandon, cameraman, I said, I'm going now just up to the chemist. Do you mind while we're waiting to go off? He said, all right, but don't be long because we need you. We need to shoot you. So halfway up the meadow on the way to the road, I heard them calling me. And although I was a very obedient youngster, I didn't come back. I just went on. Into the chemist, said hello to the man. He seemed to know who I was because they knew about the film. We had a little chat, and I had promised Bill that I wouldn't get calamine lotion because he said you look like the most peculiar ghost if you put that in your face, so get something else. So got my stuff, took about 10 minutes, and by the time I was coming back, a mist had descended, and they were gone. They were gone out off. So I spoke to a fisherman who was there, a Swedish man, and he said, they won't be long, they'll be back. They can't shoot in this weather. But they didn't come back. And I walked back to the hotel to Guillotis, which was quite a long journey away, and just went up to bed and fell asleep, and woke up to the sound of crying and kind of keening. And I went out on the gantry, and people downstairs looked up, and they must have thought I was a ghost, because they had all been, they'd been lost at sea. And that was the start of, I thought I was the curse on the whole film, however, that's another story. But the leading man, Hugh Focus, had swum back. He'd tied them to makeshift rafts, and he'd swum back to the shore. He was saved. The others were all drowned, and I was saved naturally by just disobeying orders. So I had met a young man by then who was also in the Brendan Smith Academy, and Brendan Smith sent him down to Achill to bring me home. But before that, my father, who was in the wire room, just heard the news on the wires, came in through Reuters, and of course he collapsed because he thought, Claire is gone. So there was Brendan at the door, Brendan Smith, she's all right, she's okay, she's not dead. So that was that. We had been filming from a curragh, a boat, which was very unseaworthy, really. It wasn't fit for purpose, and it would never have withstood 25-foot waves, not in a million years, which is what killed them. And that boat had been seen and played in by my husband when he was a little boy down in the Amethyst Hotel. And it had been obviously refurbished. I knew none of this at the time. I learned about that later. It had been refurbished and made back into a curragh, which was the boat that they were lost on. So that's just a little story. I go on now to happier times. When I was in America, I did a one-woman show. And one of my favorite characters was in a play which is on at the moment. I think it's still on in the Abbey, The Plough and the Stars. And I would just like to lighten things up, to do a little bit of Ginny Gogan. Ginny Gogan she's another one who's like myself, she lives downstairs in the tenement, And her friend Fluthergood, who's a carpenter, is her mate. And they're talking about Nora Clitheroe. Nora is she is upmarket, and she wants to be a lady, and she's married to Jack. I'm sure you know the play. You probably know it better than I do. But Ginny is sitting talking to Fluther when there's a knock at the door. Who are you looking for, sir? Who? Mrs. Clitheroe? Oh, she's out, I think. I seen her going. Oh, excuse me. You're from Arnott's Drapery. You got a parcel for her? Righto, I'll take it. I'll give it to her the minute she comes in. It'll be quite safe with me. What's in it? You don't know? Excuse me. You want me to sign something? Where? Here? No, here. Oh, will I put Maggie or Mrs.? Goodbye now. Now, she takes the box from him. It's a big box, like a hat box, and she brings it over to the table and opens it. Oh, I wonder what's in this now. Merciful hour, a hat. Oh, there's style. What? She takes it out and plonks it on her head. Oh, there's swank. What? What notions of operosity she's getting late. That hat now costs more than a penny. Luther says, she's a pretty little lady all the same. She isn't. Sure, there's prettiness and prettiness in it. The way she's always trying to be polite with her good morning, Mrs. Gogan, when she's coming down. And good evening, Mrs. Gogan, when she's going up. But there's politeness and politeness in it. And Fluther says, they get on well enough together all the same, Jenny. They do and they don't. They used to be like two turtle doves, billing and cooing. You couldn't come into the room, but they'd be after kissing and cuddling each other. And after all, there's kissing and cuddling in it. But I'm thinking he's beginning to take things a bit more quietly like. Oh yeah, the mystery of having a woman's a mystery no longer. Oh, she dresses herself up to keep him with her, but it's no use, no. After a month or two, the wonder of a woman wears off. Now that play, of course, caused a riot. I'm sure you know about that too. In 1926, O'Casey was accused of depicting, amongst other things, which the public didn't like, a prostitute on stage. The part was played by Rhea Mooney, who was a young actress at the time, and she subsequently became a very well-known director of the Abbey. And later in her biography or autobiography, Rhea said that she actually at the time didn't know what a prostitute was. She must have been a very sheltered young lady. But anyway, after the initial uproar of booing and catcalling and singing of patriotic songs during the second act, which reduced the actors to mere dumb show, the play was stopped completely. In the third act, when vegetables, shoes, and even chairs were hurled at the stage. The curtain was lowered, the police were called in to the rioters, and W.B. Yeats, director of the Abbey Theatre, an Irish senator, and Nobel Prize winner, poet, of course, strode on stage and quietened the mob with these lines. "You have disgraced yourselves again. is this to be an ever-recurring celebration of the birth of Irish genius? Sing first, and now O'Casey. The news of the happenings of the past few minutes will go from country to country. Dublin has once more rocked the cradle of genius. From such a scene, in this very theatre, went forth the fame of Sing. Equally, the fame of O'Casey is born here tonight. And of course, it was. O'Casey became very famous. Now, I just want to read you a little line from the present production. And this is a review. And I must say, I agree completely with this. So bear with me. Reimagining classic plays is one thing. It can be valuable, even revelatory at times. But when the reimagining involves draping a sanitized cloak over the darkness of the blood, sweat and tears at the heart, it comes close to an insult to the author and his intentions. The Plough and the Stars is site-specific, an 18th century tenement building close to O'Connell Street. It's date-specific, an evening in November 1915, with the later act set across 3 days in Easter week. So what the bloody hell does it reimagine or add either to its comedy or its searing tragedy to dress the women in characters in platforms and skinny jeans and have Jack Clitheroe do a hotshot dance with microphone around his tenement room in his extremely clean 21st century knickers. And it goes on like that, and I couldn't agree more. I don't know about you, but if the current production of O'Casey's great howl against militarism and deprivation is a theatre goer's first experience of the play, they would need to have read a social history of early 20th century Dublin life beforehand. There's no flavour of its indignity and misery here. So I think it's Emer O'Kelly who wrote that, and I think it's true. I don't know, did anybody see it?
Yeah.
What did they say? Yeah, I mean, it's so I believe. I didn't see it. I was going to go one night. Yeah, scaffolding. They talk about that here. Yeah. Yeah, trying to die in that. Yeah, yeah. It's very interesting. Why do they do? You know, it's sacrilegious, really, isn't it? Anyway, where was it? Yeah. Get back. Now, when I came back from, I told you I'd come back from Achill, and we had myself and my boyfriend, who later I married, became very friendly, and I got on very well with his family. I decided that I wanted to go further afield. So I decided I wanted to try and go to London before I came back and settled down. So Siobhan McKenna, I'm sure you've all heard of Siobhan, and her husband, Dennis O'Dea, they came to see me. I was in a play in the Peacock called I Remember Mama by John Van Rooten. And they came, both of them, and they said, we would like to introduce you to our agent, Al Parker. He wasn't Al Parker of later date, who was the filmmaker, Alan Parker. He was an actor's agent. And he was very posh altogether, had an office in Park Lane. So I went off to London. I think I had a pound of Hafner sausages, which Siobhan said, bring over Hafner sausages. He loves those kind of. So I went over with my sausage, and probably white pudding and rashes as well. And I went into the posh office, and there were a few people there, a few actors, and a few young Irish actors there too. And I became aware of a man who had come into the room, come into the lobby, wherever we were sitting waiting. And I didn't know it at the time, but he was Paul Vincent Carroll, the writer, the playwright. And he saw something in me, obviously, that he thought it might be of interest, because he was going up to meet Al Parker about casting one of his plays, The Devil Came from Dublin. So I waited my turn. I was called up, and Mr. Playwright was in the room with the agent. So I was introduced. This is Paul Vincent Carroll. I'm Al Parker. You're Claire. So what I didn't know at the time was that Al Parker himself was married to a very famous actress, and she wanted to play the lead in Paul's play. I didn't know that. I wouldn't even consider that I would be up for a play the minute I go into London, you know. So I put my sausages down. Paul then said to me, if you can act, I would like you to play the lead. This is totally true. In my play, I'd like you to play Rita Ronan in The Devil Came from Dublin. So I could see that Al was sort of a bit, you know, well, could she not play the other part, Judy? It's the smaller part. No, I wanted to play Rita. Anyway, to cut a long story short, I got the play, I got the part. I was in very distinguished company in London. And then heavens fell in on me, because I had a phone call from my to-be father-in-law, and also from their doctor, Dr. Corbett, who said that my beloved boyfriend had a disease called sarcoidosis, which was, at the time, it was very serious. And they thought, the doctor, Dr. Corbett said, I reckon he doesn't have longer than 6 months to live, so get home, in other words. So, my future husband's mother had taken off with her daughter. She wasn't able to cope with the situation, and she left home, and I had to come back to Ireland, give up all the glamour, and I came back. I got a job in Woolworths. They put me into the office in Henry Street, and I worked there, and I used to leave. This sounds like really goody-goody, but it worked at the time for me. You know, I was happy to do it. But I used to go in and leave my house, go to work, come out, go out to Monkstown, where my future husband lived with his father. There were only the two of them. My future father-in-law, Sam, would have bought food for the day, like he'd buy fish or something. I'd cook it, I'd give it to the poor bedridden soul who was dying. He was getting better by the day, but he wasn't allowed to get up or do anything. He was actually, 3 people had it at the time, and the other 2 didn't survive. But he did. And in 6 months he was well. but very fat. There's a picture of him there, if you want to see it. On our wedding day, and he's quite plump. He put on loads of weight after this. But anyway,
he's on the screen. He's on the screen.
Oh, it's up there, is it? Oh, that's him, yeah. Although I look fat than him. I'm so close to the camera. But I actually was so thin on my wedding day that Peggy Manley made my dress. She was my, I suppose you'd call it designer now, but at the time it was called dressmaker. And she made, I got married in February, and it was snowing. And dear Peggy, she was so clever. She made my dress of dressing gown material, padded material. And it was great because I was very, very thin. So I was the only warm person. I was able to go and be photographed outside all day, and everybody else was freezing. I must tell you, it was a bit frustrating because I would get phone calls from various people like directors, and they'd say, can you come back, we want to see you for a film, or we want to see you for a play. And I wouldn't be able to do it. I really was stuck. So anyway, Kevin survived. He became an actor after that. He wasn't an actor at the time I married him. And he was called Kevin O'Connor when I married him. But he changed his name to Connor Evans. He transposed it because there was another Kevin O'Connor in the business. That's why I didn't say his name until now, so I just wanted to tell you that. So he became Connor Evans in the acting world. And we came back, got married, and I came back, got married, and I won't say we lived happily ever after. Nobody does. There were ups and downs, big time, and we survived them. But we had quite a good life, a very good life together. 3 children, 3 girls, and that was it. That was my life. I'd like to, I continued, of course, as an actor, and I had the pleasure of working with some very terrific people, you know, in both in film and on television, like Peter O'Toole and Robert Mitchum and Susanna York and Alan Bates and Pierce Brosnan. I played Pierce's mother-in-law in the film you might remember called Evelyn. Bad mother-in-law. Put the children into the orphanage. But that was fun. And my husband was in that. He played the judge who would say, however, and then they'd go back into the orphanage. So.
Claire, you see that picture behind you there?
Yeah, that's an ideal husband in the Gate Theatre. I did, that's me in the white in the middle. And Billy Golding is there and there. And that's me there in the white. But yeah, that was a lovely production by Hilton Edwards. I worked a lot with Hilton and Michael in the Gate, and I enjoyed it immensely. And my husband wasn't in that play. He's in, I haven't got many pictures of him actually. We did a lot of work together, and we played together a lot. But most of the time we would be working separately. We were both freelance actors, and he sadly got Alzheimer's. And I nursed him, I looked after him for a few years, and then I had to say, okay, nursing home, which was pretty harrowing because of, you know, it's harrowing from the point of view of financial point of view, and also from the point of view of emotional, you know, you never really get over it. And I'm sure a lot of you are touched by Alzheimer's. It's something that is in every family. And it's something that hopefully soon they'll be able to live. They keep saying, oh, we've got a cure, things are working out, but I've been listening to that. He's dead now 2 years. He died 2 years ago, on the 25th of May of this month. So before that, although he was able to remember lines and, you know, he played parts of judges and people like that in film, and always learned all the lines himself, insist on learning them, when other people would say, now we will go to the case between Lord Nelson and Mrs. Murphy. And they'd read the lines, but he always insisted on learning all the lines, and he did so beautifully. And yet, his memory went. There was a time when he said to me, who are you? You know, how nice to see you. And you're very good. Very good to come and see me today. Then he'd think I was his daughter or his mother. He was ill. He was in the nursing home for 5 years. But before that, he had done a few shows. I think the last one he did, and he knew the whole thing backwards, was Evelyn. That was the one we were in together, the film with Pierce Brosnan. But after that, he did a couple of televisions for BBC, and he'd have to be kind of rescued, you know, beginning to disremember. But I know we did a couple of good plays on radio, and that would be perfect, you know. He'd be able to, yeah, it was lovely, but it's such a, God, it's such a dreadful disease, isn't it? Yeah, that's so sad, because I went through it with a friend of mine, and her lovely husband, Paul, got it too. And one day he said to his son, who's that lady who's always coming to the house? She's always here. Who is she? And it was his wife. You know, so it's just dreadful. So, now, would you like me to do a little poem? Funny little poem. If it's not. Are we all right? Yeah. Okay. Now this is a poem which it actually it's in the New Oxford Book of Light Verse, and chosen and edited by Kingsley Amis. And he thought it was good enough. It's anonymous, but he thought it was good. It's an little Irish poem. And it's called The Ballad of William Bloat. In a mean abode on the Shankill Road lived a man named William Bloat. He had a wife, the plague of his life, who continually got his goat. So one day at dawn, with her night shift on, he slit her bloody throat. Now he was right glad he'd done as he had, as his wife lay there so still, when a sudden awe of the mighty law struck his heart with an icy chill. And to finish the fun so well begun, he resolved himself to kill. He took the sheet from his wife's cold feet and knotted it into a rope and hanged himself from the pantry shelf. An easy death, you hope, in the jaws of death, with his latest breath, says he, to hell with the Pope. But the strangest turn of the whole concern is only just beginning. He went to hell, but his wife got well, and is still alive and sinning. For the razor blade was Dublin made, but the sheet was Belfast laid. I think you've had enough, do you know?
Claire, would it be okay if some of our audience asked you?
Yeah, of course.
Have you time for that?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
If anyone wants to ask Claire anything about his exciting life, please bring. Can I start with, did any of your daughters follow you into acting?
Well, my daughter Christine works as a consultant for Estee Lauder and also as an actor. She lives in London, and she was a dancer. She became a ballet dancer, and she worked for a French ballet company and spent a lot of time. She's, as she says herself, too old now to dance, but she recently played the part of, you've seen me in An Ideal Husband there, I mean, a photograph. Now, she played Mrs. Cheveley in that recently, and she played it around Europe on tour. So she's now going to play, her next thing is Ginny Gogan, yeah, that one, and she'd be dead right with that, good cheeky lump she is. Now, the other, my second daughter, Michelle, is a voiceover artist, and you might hear her voice doing ads, you know, she does that. But Michelle is very nervous about, she's a good actor, but she never really cared to kind of be an actor. The other one is, she became a nurse, Leslie Ann, and she now runs a hospital in Waterford and has a very stressful job altogether, and probably has to do a lot of acting, you know, in her job. So that's it.
It's very interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not easy being a woman in Ireland, in the theatre, and trying to juggle your life, you know. It's hard, it's difficult, but we managed it, you know. My husband wasn't greatly hands-on, you know, about changing nappies and stuff. But he wasn't a new man. So I used to find myself kind of doing the shopping and doing the cleaning, and then learning Winnie and Happy Days, which was 12,000 words and stuff like that. You know? Yeah, great. Yeah.
And Claire, all the movie stars you worked with over the years, the movie stars, who was the best or the nicest?
Well, the best was Robert Mitchum. He was wonderful and lovely to work with. And the one, I think the most glamorous was Peter O'Toole. He was amazing. Like he'd be drunk most of the day, having drunk a whole bottle of something which looked like water. And then, like a litre, and then at about 4 o'clock, they'd be able to go in, and he would do about 10 minutes total, remembering every single moment of his script. Amazing, he was amazing. But Alan Bates was my favourite of all. Gorgeous. Yeah, I can't think of him at the moment, but I'll think of him in a minute. Oh yes, that's Godfrey Quigley there. That play was by Hugh Leonard, an Irishman, and that play, actually the part was written for me by Hugh Leonard, and I got Best Actress for it. No, that was Irishman. Yeah, he wrote 2 plays with me in mind. One was Summer, and one was Irishman. So yeah, it was happy memories. And Godfrey was a great actor. Yeah, he was great. Yes, that was the start of my life, really. You know, I loved being the Girl Guides. They were so. It was an ordered thing, you know. Like nothing was in order in my house with the boys, because they'd come into my room, and when I'd come back, everything would be asunder, you know. I didn't have sisters for a good while, but I did have 2 then. One died, but my other sister was, she's, I suppose, maybe 6 or 7 years younger than me, which is a long, yeah, exactly. So Jo, she's still going strong.
Did you ever feel your life would have gone another way had you stayed in London and not come back?
Yeah, I would have been Dame Claire Mullan. But it's true. They do look after their actors over there, their older actors. In this country, you disappear when you're quite young, you know.
Yeah.
They put young people in parts which they should give their older actors, you know. I'm probably unemployable now in most of the theatres, you know. But, and yes, we do remember our lines, and we do, you know how to deal with an audience, know how to, yeah, and our voices are good. But anyway, that's Ireland for you, you know.
All I can say is, can you hear me? Yes. Claire, I have to say, I just really enjoyed everything you spoke about.
Delighted.
And well done. We all loved it.